Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we're going to be talking about the Bears' first preseason win and some really frustrating Cubs baseball. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You could see the stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. The season is just right around the corner, so head on over to icehogs.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Oh, Alex, I think I know how you're feeling right now.
Yeah, I keep telling myself not to get frustrated, but I still am. I still am, even though it's like me staring at something that's horrible over and over again, and then it being less horrible, and then it kind of just turning back to being horrible, so on and so forth, over and over and over again, like beating myself with a hammer. I still can't just walk away and ignore it.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where you just, I guess it's the stages of grief. I'm not at acceptance yet with, how bad this has been. This series, the frustrating play, the wheels coming off at the most inopportune times, the fact that you can't get bats hot. And it's just extremely frustrating.
What gets me, what has gotten me all season, is every time they have some nice stretch of games where they have one big win and they say, oh, this is it, this is the turning point, it never is. They not only do they lose a couple games in a row after some big win, they lose it in fashions where A, they just get their crap kicked in, B, they throw the games away, whether it's bad bullpen play, bad defense, lack of hitting, whatever, or, all the above. And that's what you saw in this National Series. Now, here's the thing. The Nationals are very good. They are. They showed why they are very good this weekend. But it's the fashion they're losing. It's the same movie. Bad defense, bullpen falling apart, not coming up with the big hit and a big opportunity. The Giants series, it was great. They got a lot of breaks. They won slugfests. They won pitchers' duels. They did what they were supposed to do. And once again, all that quote-unquote momentum, if you want to call it, goes nowhere, and all of a sudden you're 2.5 back of first place. It shows that momentum is a myth. At least for this team.
Yeah, momentum is garbage. It's so frustrating. You're right. And a lot of things went their way in that Giants series. Like last game of the series, the one that they won 1-0, is you could only get one hit off Jeff Samardzija. Two hits, one run. Two hits, one run.
Two hits.
Yeah. You got one run off of Jeff Samardzija, who, granted, he's had a bounce back year this year, but
yes, he has. He's been very hot lately.
He's still Jeff Samardzija. You need to get on him better, and you got two hits, one run, and thank God for Kyle Hendricks just throwing BBs up there, because You scored 1 run. You won 1-0.
Right. I mean, luckily, Kyle Hendricks was on his game.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if he didn't, the bullpen came up huge too. But it was the offense just wasn't there at all. You had, I mean, that series with San Francisco is Yu Darvish had a not a great game. I mean, he was going there for a bit, and then ran into some trouble there, and the bullpen didn't help out. Chatwood didn't pitch well. Holland didn't pitch well, but the Cubs came up with a huge late inning comeback. And I mean, the first game was a nice win. That was just a nice solid win. But you came in a lot of luck. All of that luck and things just falling your way came back in spades in this stupid national series.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much everything. And I'm not mad at them for I'm not really mad at them for not scoring a lot off Steven Strasburg, because the dude is nasty. What got me was you had the opportunity to win when you came back, and boom, 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 you went down quickly. Then Nick Castellanos misses a home run by like 2 feet, and then boom, quickly extinguished again. You saw the Nationals batters have grindy at-bat after grindy at-bat all series long, and with no exception today in extras. I mean, you saw every time the Nationals batted, it felt like the inning was lasting forever. When the Cubs went out there in the later innings, it was like boom, 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 done. I'll give the Cubs offense credit. Earlier in the game against Strasburg, even if they didn't really get to him, they had good at-bats against him. But the Cubs will do that thing where the good at-bats, the good approach, just goes away. Like, pop, gone.
Yeah, it's just really frustrating. I mean, I don't even know how to put it into words. In this game, you had the nice comeback in the 8th. And it's like, all right. You're bringing this back, and then once they didn't score in the 10th, I was like, this is done. Cubs are losing this game.
Oh yeah, of course. I mean, they had the golden opportunity right there, the golden opportunity to win it. I mean,
yeah, you had Castellanos, Bryant, and Baez, and if you're not scoring with those 3, then you're not going to win.
He needed what, 5-7 more feet, Castellanos?
Yeah.
Because off the bat, I'm like, oh, that's gone. And then I saw the fielder start to look up. I'm like, oh, it's going to be close. Because I thought, okay, when it first left the bat, I thought it was going to be a couple rows up. Then the way the fielder looked back, I'm like, oh, this could be in the basket. And then it was caught. It was like, boom, 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 oh. And then Javi got an absolute hanger, and he just got under it. I mean, the Javi Baez of last year, he would have hit that off the video board. You saw that pitch, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that should have been hit where Sammy Sosa hit him in 1998. And normally Javi Baez does punish that, but he himself has been in quite a funk lately.
Yeah, and I don't know what's going on, is because Bryant has great numbers, but there's a lot of times he just comes up cold. Baez has been in a funk. We'll talk about this in a minute, but Rizzo is out with a back. And it's Nick Castellanos and then a bunch of easy outs.
Yeah, the one thing that I'd like to point out, one thing. if there is somebody who I think gets crapped on all the time that doesn't deserve it right now, it's Chris Bryant. I know earlier in the year we talked about how we kind of wish he didn't. How do I say this? I don't want to say stats padding, but early in the year we thought, okay, we'd like to see him come up in some bigger situations and yada yada. And the thing is, he's done that. He's absolutely done that lately. And he still gets crapped on, but you see other guys struggling and they don't hear anything. I mean, frankly, right now, I think Chris Bryant's one of the last people that should feel fans' wrath, in my opinion. But you look at the others that are struggling. It's hard to win when not everybody is in sync.
And you know what? Here's the sitch with my feelings on Bryant is we all know that the bottom of the order is just shit on a shingle. But the top of the order, you have really high expectations that you set. And whether those are fair expectations or not, I think most people have really high expectations. So being, if they're not met, if your offense is sputtering, unless you're just completely standing out, which Nick Castellanos is doing, they're like, if you're not doing that to help bring this offense back to life, the eyeballs go to you. We're not going to turn and be like, oh man, Lucroy, why aren't you hitting? Addison Russell, I mean, you hit a home run, but why aren't you hitting? David Bodie, you're back up. Why aren't you hitting? Ian Happ, why are you batting 227? Like those things, we've just kind of come to expect that that's what we're going to get. And if we're going to get out of this funk, it's going to be on the backs of Javi Baez. It's going to be the backs of Chris Bryant, on Anthony Rizzo, and Rizzo is hurt. So the high expectations are one of these guys or multiple of these guys have to put the lion's share on their shoulders and just carry that burden. And if they don't, this team is going to falter because it is a flawed team. And that might be an unrealistic expectation. That might be too lofty of expectation, but that's unfortunately when you're a superstar on a team that has high aspirations, then that's the kind of the burden you get.
Yeah, unfortunately, after the first 2 years in the big leagues, he's expected to be where Cody Bellinger and Mike Trout and Christian Yelich is right now. And, I think that he's not on that level, but he's still one of the best players in baseball. And I know expectations are high. I get that. I just hate when people keep bringing up that he never comes up big when he has hit multiple game-winning home runs the past several weeks. And today, he tied the game. He tied the game off Strasburg. He didn't hit walk-off home run, but he did come up with a pretty big hit. So I don't know. That's one thing that does annoy me a little bit. I'm just getting that out there.
Yeah, there's just so much frustration. It just sort of seeps over into every aspect. And it's hard not to. It's really hard not to. Is everything, and it's hard to even be mad at Jed and Theo because they've put together what should be a good team. They've added every piece that they possibly can add, and you're still getting bad at bats, and you're still having offensive struggles. And I don't know what else to do other than the big shakeups.
And it's harder to do that now when you have Rizzo and Contreras out. You have two of your biggest bats out.
You are already struggling with them, and they go down. And, unfortunately, we're looking at longer than expected for Wilson Contreras to come back.
I'm sort of worried he's not coming back.
I would be shocked if he doesn't come back unless they don't make the postseason.
Yeah.
I think he will. I think if they don't make the postseason, if they just fall out, he'll just not play the rest of the season. Just get ready for next season. If they put it back into gear and they start playing well again, and they're back in the division lead and things are looking up, I think he'll come back right at the end of the season, so he has some legs under him, to play in the playoffs. But I'm a little not worried about long-term health, but I'm just worried about having him available for the postseason. Victor Caratini has been really good, but we've seen some real struggles from Jonathan Lucroy at points.
Right. I mean, you can live for amount of time with the tandem that you have, but if you really want to like make a postseason run, you're going to need your all-star catcher. It's that simple.
Yeah, right. And here's the thing: is if Wilson Contreras was healthy, you probably put Victor Caratini playing first, and it's definitely a drop off both defensively and offensively from Anthony Rizzo, but it's definitely a functional bat in the lineup. So that's another crappy thing,
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of having a situation where you're putting Caratini at first and Jonathan Lucroy catching, you've got Wilson Contreras catching, and you're much better situation there.
Yeah, I know. It's just not an ideal situation, even when you could get by with it.
Yeah, or you have Ian Happ playing first base, and he gives you that awesome 0 for 3 with a strikeout.
Yeah.
And I was so ready to give him a pass and be like, you know what? Things got better after he was sent back down, but yeah, he just came up at the right time.
I still think he's like a useful piece on the team. It's not somebody I'd rely on like you would a Rizzo or Brian to control. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's you've got 3 guys that you had really high hopes for. Well, 2.5 guys with high hopes, with Bodie, Russell, and Happ, and you've been disappointed in all 3.
Yeah,
to say the least.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have Jonathan Lucroy, who I'm not even going to beat up on him because he was a guy that he was on the street when you brought him in as an emergency situation, and I don't know what more I would have expected out of him, so I can't put the blame on him. I mean, he's a guy.
Honestly, for what he was when he came here, I'd say he's been fine.
Yeah, I mean the
not great, but he's been fine.
The defense has been better than the picture was painted while he was with the Angels.
Right, right.
And the bat has been better than it was with the Angels. So I can't beat him up because you had minimal expectations there. The situation is what it is. You can be mad at Bodie. You can be mad at Russell. You can be mad at Happ. Those are guys that you need more out of. Schwarber, you need more out of him.
Oh yeah, I mean there's so much inconsistency where they just disappear for an extended amount of time, and you can't have that right now. I mean, you're going to be 2.5 back.
And here's the thing: baseball right now is in a situation where strikeouts are acceptable because of the number of home runs that are being hit, and the Cubs have a lot of strikeouts. The problem is they don't have the home runs to compensate for the number of strikeouts they have. So If
Right. Not only would you like a little more, but you'd also like more contact and better contact in certain situations. Let's just say that.
right, if you're it's really frustrating. You don't have the ability to play small ball consistently. It's just you don't. If this comes down to small
Look at the
ball,
top of the Nationals order. They can play it. We can't.
right? We don't have the ability to play small ball. They do. They also have bats that they can win with slugfest. The Nationals offensively, they're better this year than they were last year with Bryce Harper.
Yeah, you know what? I would not be surprised at all if the Nationals went on a better run than they ever have without him.
Which is a weird to think about. And as a Phillies fan, this probably got me, feeling like my collar's a little tight, going, ooh.
I just feel like everything's more balanced there now. You know what I mean? Like, look how well balanced that lineup was.
You know what's weird is I feel like the frustrations they've felt the last few years are the same frustrations we are feeling right now as Cubs fans with that offense going cold.
Sure.
And they've made some roster moves that have allowed them to have more speed, better contact, the ability to play small ball, even if they don't, but the ability to put a guy on, move him over. And I don't know how you retool like that for the Cubs, but it's just an interesting thing to take note of.
Right, and when we talk about retooling, we're looking beyond this year. There is nothing more you can do this year. This is the team you have. This is who you got. You can't sell or buy anymore right now. And if the Cubs don't make the playoffs, that awesome Nick Castellanos move may be for nothing unless they find an extension with him. If you find an extension with him, then yeah, it'll end up being a good move. But if not, it won't be a bad move by any means, but it will be like, well, what was it for?
It'll be in the annals of, oh yeah, I forgot that we traded for Nick Castellanos that one year that we didn't do anything.
It's kind of like, I think he's better than how he played with the Cubs. He didn't play bad with the Cubs, but if the Cubs didn't make the playoffs this year, he would be a lot like Nomar Garciaparra. Nomar Garciaparra was a bigger name, but with that sense of trading for an established veteran that did contribute to the team, but in the end, the team didn't make it to where they wanted to be.
Right.
And that would stink. Now, if they found an extension with him, if they found him and said, "Hey, we want to extend you. You clearly like it here. Let's get something done," it'll be a little different. And Nomar did play another year here, but they didn't make the playoffs in 2005 either. What frustrates me the most is you look at the Cardinals, who are red hot right now, and they are playing a very favorable schedule. And I'm not saying, oh, look at them. It's just because of the schedule. You play who's on your schedule. But the Cubs put themselves in this situation to where this is dire time more than ever. If you would have held on in so many other games, if you would have come up with one or two big hits in a number of other games, the situation would be completely different. It would be completely different.
That's why it's so imperative that you beat the teams you're supposed to beat. Mm-hmm. Because when you do go into a situation where you're in a funk or when you're facing a really tough opponent, like the Nationals are a very good team. They've, if I'm not mistaken, they have a better record than the Cubs right now.
Oh yeah. And they were below 500 for a chunk of the season. Them and the Indians, who looked like they were toast at one point this season, have better records than the Cubs.
So when you run into a team like that just has your number, you don't fall, below the threshold of where you need to be, which is being in the playoffs. You have a cushion. This is a division that you should have a padded lead right now. You're better than the other teams, and you haven't taken advantage. You haven't taken advantage when you've played a team like the Cincinnati or Pittsburgh, you haven't come up big in against teams like the Nationals. You've had a shit the bed moment against the Giants last time you played them. This is a team that has not played up to the standard that they should be playing, and you come into these moments now where every day is a big day. There's not it's a Tuesday night and there's 30 games left. We're okay. Those moments aren't here anymore. They're all important. No.
Every game matters. Like
you're multiple games out of first place. You're in a situation now. You're still in the wild card, but you have to play the Nationals in Washington right at this point. Is that something you want to do in a 1-game series?
No, but right now as we speak, it's kind of how I'm seeing how this is going to play out. More and more as every day passes by, I have that feeling we're going to have to play in a wild card game.
And the Cardinals don't look like they're slowing down. They're playing really good baseball. And you know what? They played Milwaukee and they took care of business. When you're the Cubs, you're not taking care of business. You're supposed to, you're like, okay, well, we've been really bad on the road, but we've been so good at home. And suddenly, instead of coming back to the mean on the road, which is what we really hoped, that we'd stay hot at home and come back to the mean on the road, and then things would just sort of right themselves. And I think that's the hope as a Cubs fan. But it didn't happen that way. It's the road woes continued, and then you reverted back to the mean at home. And that's a bad case scenario.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, you talked about big series. This upcoming series with the Mets is pretty important. You're both in that wild card position right now.
Yeah. And then you're about to have 7 games against Milwaukee.
Yeah.
7.
Yeah. I mean, right now I'm more afraid of the Cardinals than Milwaukee, but Milwaukee's not just going to shrivel around and die. I mean, they're going to up the ante against us. They will. Yeah.
No. I didn't mean it like, oh, they're the team to beat, but that if we can't beat Milwaukee, we can't catch up to the Cardinals.
No.
And the thing is this is an opportunity to make it a 2-horse race. So those 7 games, that is the opportunity, because they've been struggling too. They've fallen several games out from the division lead as well. And if you can just put the hammer to them in these 7 games, that's going to really push them to the point where, it's almost time to wave the white flag, and same time pushing you up to, competing with the Cardinals.
And you know what the other thing is about that? Just to add on top of that, had the Cubs swept Milwaukee in Milwaukee like they should have that one time, those late blown games, if you win those 2, and not only would you have 2 more wins right now, and you'd be closer in first place, but Milwaukee would be on absolute life support right now. I don't want to say they're dead, because they're certainly not. There's a month to go. But if you ask me right now how I thought Milwaukee was doing, I'd say, well, they're still in it, but they're fading a little bit. They're not gone, but they're kind of stuck in neutral right now.
Yeah, it's, to put it this way, if you're a fan of the opposing team like we are, the Cubs fans, then we're like, it's not looking so good, it's not looking so hot. If you are a Brewers fan right now, you're in panic mode, right? Because this is looking tough. And the Cubs really have the opportunity to either let the Brewers back into this or beat them down.
Yeah.
And I really hope that they're able to do it. I mean, because it's 3 at home, but 4 up in Milwaukee with a 2-game set with Seattle between. And I'm going to the second of the Seattle games, so hopefully don't continue my jinx streak. If they lose that game to Seattle, it is all my fault. I'll take the burden.
Oh, I'm going to be there Monday.
Oh man, the Swerski show might really jinx the Cubs.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy.
Yeah. And I'm not. And here's the thing: is with St. Louis is, you got to stay within a game or two of them going down the stretch, because as per usual, you wrap up with a lot of games at the end of the season with the Cardinals. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 of your last 10 games are against the Cardinals.
God. Oh. We're never going to hear the end of it if we're on the wrong side. After the last several years of owning the Cardinals and eliminating them, if they return the favor, we are never going to hear the end of that.
Yeah, and the last 6 games of the season are on the road. 3 at Pittsburgh, 3 at St. Louis. So this is at the point now where it really is crunch time. You've got the Mets series is going to be tough because they're a team that's competing for that wild card. 7 against Milwaukee, and they're a team that's still fighting for it. You got 2 with Seattle that you should win. You've got 4 in San Diego. That is, I think, is going to be a real tough series. It's a series you absolutely should dominate, but it's on the road, and it's against a team that in the last couple seasons you should have dominated and have given you the business at points.
That ballpark is never good for the Cubs to play in.
No. You got 3 at home versus Pittsburgh, 3 again home versus Cincinnati, 4 at home versus St. Louis, and then 6 on the road, 3 at Pittsburgh, 3 at St. Louis, and you wrap this season up. So there's not a whole heck of a lot of games left, and you've got plenty of time to catch up with. Was it a 2.5 lead the Cardinals have?
Yeah, right now, yeah.
So 2.5 game lead. That is plenty of time to catch up, especially since you have 7 games against the Cardinals.
Yeah.
But you don't want to be at the point at the end of the season where you're, 2 to 3 games back and you have to pull out a sweep to win.
Well, they're going to have to put their big boy pants on if they want to do it. So we got to see what this team is made of in September. Maybe the tide will turn, maybe not. Or it'll keep being the same roller coaster, up and down, up and down. And look, what makes this most frustrating of all is that this division was there for you to take. It was there. You could be up so many games right now. Look, if the Cardinals were like this 100-win trajectory team and the Cubs were fighting a wild card spot because the Cardinals were just so unbelievably good, I mean, that's something else. It was like 2015. They won 97 games, but they had to be the second wild card. That's just when your competition is really dang good. Your competition's not good. You have just let them in the race the whole time, and when they get hot, they can pull away. That's what happens when you put yourself in this situation.
It's just so frustrating, and I don't know where to go from here. It's just, for the time being, we ride this out, and then come October, this ride either became super fun, or we've all got photos of us on the bottom of the roller coaster throwing up. Like that's sort of where we're at, and deal with it in the off season. I don't want to be the Cubs fan that's flying off the handle, because there still is time to to catch some fire, but I just don't see the Cubs having the tools right now to.
We've been saying the same thing all year. You know what I mean?
Yep. I just, even if they make the playoffs, what hope do you honestly have of them winning the World Series?
Winning the World Series, I think it's close to none. I don't think they have a chance. I just want to see them in the postseason.
I want to see them not just in the. I'm not even, to be honest with you, I don't consider that 1-game wild card the postseason.
I barely do. I barely. To me, it's a play-in game.
Yeah, I could look at that as like that the play-in games for the NCAA tournament.
Yeah,
are you really in the tournament if you didn't win that game? And it's not enough. I mean, it's better than nothing. But when you're a team that has these types of high aspirations, that's not good enough. So yeah, I expect you to be in the playoffs, and I expect you to at least make it a series in that first round.
Go back to last.
Because if you
think about, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, if you go in there and you get swept out in that first round, or you lose in the play-in game, it just fuels the fire of the fans.
Think back to last year. Just think back to last year. What do you think about the Cubs? Do you think, 2018 they made the postseason, or they lost out on the division?
Oh, you just think about, the only thing I can think about is how Milwaukee just chased us down and then, made us look stupid. And the Cubs faltered and Milwaukee came like a freight train behind us.
Right. I don't think of them as making the postseason, even though they technically did.
Right. And that's exactly how I think about this.
Right.
And that'll be the same this year, is unless they make some noise, they make the National League Championship Series by some miracle, that'll change. But okay, you know what? Is they had a lot of tough times in the season, but they put it together. They showed what they were made of, and they played the Dodgers tough, but the Dodgers went on to the World Series. Okay. But if they lose that wild card game, or worse, they don't make the playoffs at all, or they get crushed in the first round, all we're going to think about is this team was so inconsistent during the season, and they had so many road troubles, and this is a flawed team. Right.
And you try to think about how this team could be shaken up, and then you think more and more, and you kind of conclude, I don't really know what to do. You're kind of in a weird position. I mean, the good news is you're getting a lot of money off the books, so maybe you can make different moves with that. But, most of the free agents that were projected to be free agents have signed extensions. So the pool, there are some very notable free agents out there, like Anthony Rendon and Garrett Cole, but there's not a whole lot to choose from. There's going to be bidding wars all over baseball. So it's not like there's a big crop of free agents out there. Do you make a big trade? Is that what you do? You got to sit down and think about this. It's easier to just sit down and say, we can make some changes, shake things up. It's a lot more difficult than that.
Yeah, and here's the thing. In the last 100 years, the last 100 plus years, it's safe to say that this is the greatest period of Cubs baseball in the last 100 years, correct?
Yes.
And other than that World Series, there's been a whole lot of disappointment.
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt the two best years of this window were 15 and 16. Those were by far the best. And I will say, I thought the second half of 2017, where everything came together again, I thought that was really fun too. I really did. But yeah, I mean, if you would have looked back in 2013 and you saw 4 straight playoff appearances, a World Series, several NLCS, you'd say injected in my veins. And now there's just a whole lot of frustration. I mean, the sad thing is is you're like, yeah, this is the best we've ever had in Cubs baseball. Well, I mean, that's not saying much when you won one postseason series between 1908 and 2014. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I don't want to talk about what to do in the offseason or what we'll do next season because I don't want to give up the hope. Anything can happen if you make the playoffs. We've seen it plenty of times where a team that we thought was dead in the water ekes into the wild card and then goes on a crazy run. And that's possible. And this is not a team that can't go on that run because you've got John Lester, who, although he's really struggled over the past couple of months, he's a big game pitcher. Cole Hamels is a former World Series MVP.
He's just as big of a big game pitcher as Lester is. I mean,
Absolutely. You've got Kyle Hendricks, who has been nothing but money in the postseason. You've got Yu Darvish, who's been, for the most part, pitching great. And you've got Quintana, who, other than like his last outing, has been pitching fantastic. You've got the starting pitching, and you've got a former MVP. You've got a guy that's consistently, right around 30 home runs a year. You've got the runner-up MVP from last year. You've got a big trade piece in Nick Castellanos. If you just have a couple of those guys just catch fire, imagine if you had Bryant Baez hitting like Castellanos right now, they would be rolling. And so it's a possibility. Like, these are all things in the realm of possibility. It's just, what's the likelihood of happening? So I don't want to shut the door like, this is a scrub team. It's just it's a team of very good players that just not playing. They're playing worse than the sum of their parts.
right. And, it doesn't help that they've had big injuries as well. I mean, that's definitely been a source of some of the inconsistency, but still, everyone deals with injuries. I'm with you. I'm not saying the season's over, pack it up, there's no hope, but my expectations aren't as high as they were the past 4 years. Like, I'm prepared for the worst more than I ever have been at this point of the season. I'm not as confident. My hope is fading a little bit. It's not gone, but it's just right now, there's been enough to show me that this team can go on a run with the resumes these guys have and some of the stretches they've had this season. But the overall body of work the past 3-4 months, to me, isn't enough to convince me that there is a really good chance that this team goes on a run. It's not a 0% chance. It's not even a minute % chance, but it's certainly not a big chance, if that makes sense.
Right. So it's annoying right now, but there's a couple things I did want to talk Cubs. The first one is, I'm sure you kept up with the David Kaplan, Yu Darvish Twitter exchange.
Oh yeah, that was great. It's like, dude, take your L already. He's been owning you this whole time.
And, somebody told me about it, and I looked at it and I was like, I think David Kaplan's kind of a horse's ass. And, Yu Darvish was just like, hey, here's Cubs analytics data. I don't know where you got your numbers from, but this is from Cubs analytics. And here's this, just with facts and logic, and just hand it to him. And David Kaplan just went, we're just a couple of fun guys having. I'm like, I don't think Yu Darvish was having fun with you. He was annoyed with you.
Yeah, no, he wasn't
really annoyed.
He wasn't
with
having
you.
fun. He wasn't laughing.
No, he wasn't laughing. David Kaplan tried to laugh that one off like, oh, it was just two old buddies. But no, Yu Darvish might beat you up.
So yeah. Yeah, no, it's so true.
So I mean, that was like I don't know how David Kaplan holds his head up there. You know, that was an ugly beatdown he took.
Yeah, that really was. That really was. And the rest of like NBC is like, oh yeah, wasn't that fun? It's like no.
No. There's definitely times you can have Twitter back and forth and have it be fun, and
Right.
that was not one of them. Is you are attacking a guy who has pitched really well, and after a tough situation, while his team is struggling, and what David Kaplan did was nothing more than trying to kick somebody when they're down.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that I'm glad Yu Darvish did what he did, and he didn't get all red-assed about it. He was just like, dude, what you're saying is stupid. Here's the numbers to back that up.
Yeah.
And
he didn't name call. He didn't do any of that. He just presented the real facts. That's all he did.
And that was, I couldn't have asked for a better response from you. David Kaplan, there was a wide expanse of land of room for him to make a better decision and, make better actions. But, the other thing is we talked briefly about the Contreras and the Rizzo injuries. Honestly, they both really scare me.
Oh yeah,
I'm a Cubs fan, and I am. Have you heard any news about Rizzo?
Day to day. I mean, he's not on the IL or anything, which could be good or bad because we know this Cubs team does not handle the IL very well. But to me, I feel like from what I've heard, it's just something kind of nagging, and he's had this nagging back issue for a while now. So I'm not for Rizzo. I'm not exactly hitting the panic button repeatedly. I'm a lot more worried about Contreras. That's who I'm worried about.
It depends on what type of worry. If you're talking long-term worry, I'm much more concerned about Anthony Rizzo. If you're talking about
I'm talking
worry for the rest of the season, it's definitely Wilson Contreras, because I don't think this is healing as fast as we'd hoped. He's a guy that relies on his athleticism, and we need him, his bat, if we're going to win. Rizzo, I am concerned because it's one thing if he was like, they're like, oh, we're giving him the day off because there's a little bit of back stiffness. But when you leave a game, because that makes me a little concerned. Not a whole heck of a lot concerned, because I know he's had lingering back issues for some time now. But back issues are a tricky thing, and they don't ever tend to go away completely. You have a back issue.
No, they nag. They keep nagging.
There's a whole hell of a long list of professional athletes that have had back problems, and once you have them, they are there until you retire, and then you live with them for the rest of your life.
Yeah, exactly. That I get what you're saying, and long term, I also have my concerns about Wilson Contreras, the way he plays, the injury issue he's had with his hamstring. I mean, I'm not exactly not worried there either.
Yeah, the back worries me much more than hamstring. And Wilson, the thing that worries me is they did a lot of things to try to have precautions against having the hammy issues again, but they still crept up, and that's the worrisome part. I don't know if one of the morning show people on the Score was talking about how they thought that Quintana and Yu Darvish pitched better since Wilson Contreras has been injured. And numbers wise, it's probably true, but they were attributing it to not pitching with Wilson Contreras as their battery mate.
But the thing is, Darvish has been pitching to Caratini the entire season.
That's my point. And you know, it's really hard to say that you're better off. I guess they didn't go so far as to say better off without him, but it's really hard to fault a guy. Sure, there are better catchers as far as receivers and, you know, pitch framing. He does have a lot of movement back there.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, the defense, the arm he has, being able to throw guys out, either back picks or throwing people out at second base, that's got to be somewhat of a relief if you're a pitcher. Sure. And it's not like he's an awful catcher.
No,
so I find it hard to believe, and I didn't know if you heard that, and we're a little as put off by it as I am.
Yeah, I didn't buy it at all. I mean, especially like I said, if Darvish has been catching, or has had Caratini catching him the whole time, and Wilson, I think, has caught a lot of Quintana, but I don't remember anyone other than Taylor Davis once or twice, because Caratini had an injury early in the season. I don't think there's been a game this year where Contreras caught Yu Darvish, unless there was maybe one. It was either Caratini or Taylor Davis.
Yeah, so it's more coincidental than anything else.
Right. Yeah, I don't really buy that.
And I think I don't know where I put all my notes, but the last thing I can think of offhand that I wanted to talk about with the Cubs is I think something we were expecting, but not surprised by, expecting, but still bummed out about, is Brandon Morrow's setback.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. Unfortunately, if I was a betting man, I'd say his pitching days in the majors are probably over, but I'm really not that surprised, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was one of those things, is, you know, we had heard some optimistic news, and I, being a meatball, I ran with it probably a lot further than I should have, you know, but
you poured some sugar in that Kool-Aid and stirred it up.
I stirred it up with a big wooden spoon and made the clink, 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 clink sound. And so all the kids came running, and I was like, got the Kool-Aid. And, you know, I had the whole, I didn't even have like a scoop of sugar. I had the whole bag of sugar, and I just ripped the whole top off, and I held it against my chest and leaned forward and poured all in there. And, you know, the minute I got some good news, and it didn't pan out. And you know, the logical part of my brain went, there's no way he's pitching for the Cubs under this contract. No way. 0% chance. But the minute I saw a glimmer of hope, hey, he's pitching off the mound. Hey, you're like, ha, Kool-Aid time. Oh, yeah. I came smashing through the walls.
You have the Kool-Aid in one hand and a big tavern-style pizza in the other. Just the corners.
And then I've got a Batman-style utility belt with a wooden spoon on the one side and a pizza wheel on the other. And then in the backside, I've got one of those little dustpans and brooms to clean up Buttercup's manure.
But alas, it was for naught.
Yeah, alas, after I smashed the wall, everyone just called me a jerk, and I had to hire a bricklayer to fix it.
Yep, nice going, and that cost you some money.
So I feel really bad for Brandon Morrow. I mean, he's a very good pitcher and seems like a nice enough guy, and just, you know, life has kind of thrown him a curveball, the injury curveball. So
yeah.
But you know, I know Jed and Theo weren't counting on anything. It was just more me. So it was a bummer to hear, but not
Clink,
surprising
clink.
at all. There was no surprise there. Did you have anything else Cubs you wanted to talk?
I mean, not really. We'll see what happens as we go into September, the final month. What was really a shame after the series is that I thought that series sweep of the Giants was just really good, because even when some things faltered, other things fell into place. For example, first night, Cole Hamels doesn't have his best stuff, but he squeezes a quality start out and the offense does enough to win. The second day, it's a back and forth slugfest. Chris Bryant hits a go-ahead home run in epic fashion. And Craig Kimbrell with back-to-back 1-2-3 inning saves. You saw a lot of good there. And then, like I mentioned earlier, you saw good defense and great pitching from the professor in the sweep. So you're like, okay, you got 2 hits only, but you got a run, and that's all you needed to win. It's just that felt so good. And then this series just, again, like many other series, sucked the wind out of the sails of anything good that happens this season. So just going to talk about that frustration one more time, and then I think I've said my piece about the Cubs right now.
Yeah, I felt the same way about that Giants series. I was like, all right, this is the turning point. This is the turning point, because you put together a really good series, and the Giants aren't a pushover team. Earlier in the year, you probably could say that, but you're like, all right, this is it. You came through adversity, and you're winning games. You've found some luck along the way. Some things fell your way. You're all right. This is it. And then the national series, and then you're like, oh, and then we got 3 more at home here. This is good. We're going to be able to, really pad this lead. And then you just came into the national series, and they really threw you a curveball there. I guess while we're on baseball, we'll talk a little bit of White Sox. And I don't want to talk about the week, because this is a team that at one point in the season we talked about. They were almost 500. Could they make a run for the wild card? Probably not, but could they at least stay a 500 team for this season and kind of use that to propel into next season? And they've really fallen off in the second half as far as the win-loss record.
Yeah, I mean, at least they had a nice week this week, but yeah, overall they're still on the real path, but it doesn't look like they're going to be fighting for any wild card spots right now. But I can at least say for them that, you get Moncada back and he's mashing again, and Jose Abreu continues to be productive for them. So at least they've had something to watch. And Reynaldo Lopez has pitched better. Still a lot of things to work on. Obviously, Dylan Cease is still trying to find it. Luis Robert is still killing it in the minors. I don't really have anything new to say. So
I've got 2 things I want to talk about. Is one, Luis Robert is still mashing it. What the hell? Like so the collective bargaining agreement is going to the contract is going to expire, and the number one sticking point is going to be this service time issue.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
I think that's probably safe to say. And how in the world, when you have your feet held to the fire as the White Sox, and they go Exhibit A of why you were doing this? I mean, at least with the Cubs, it was a tough one with the Chris Bryant thing. They're like, oh, here's a few things we want him to work on, blah, blah, blah. But with Luis Robert, what the hell evidence can you say that for the rationale of why you held them down, other than because no team so far has admitted that it was because of the service time. That's why they've kept them down. We all know that that's the reason, but nobody has said it. And for the White Sox, they have nothing they can say. It It is as blatant as if you were to write the most blatant situation of just holding a guy down so you can have, him for a longer time. This would probably trump it. This guy has done everything. He is just mashing the ball. You had him at A ball. He mashed it. You moved him up to double A, mashed it. Moved him up to triple A, still mashed it. And you're like, all right, why isn't he on this roster? Why the hell? It's not like there's somebody up in the major league roster going, well, we don't want to take at bats away from that guy. You have the room on the roster. You're not fighting for any sort of playoff race. Let the guy come up and play, because if he struggles, get the struggles out now. So when he comes to spring training next year, you're like, all right, this guy got that out of his system. Now he can just mash again. And if he,
I know what you could say. I have an idea. There is a certain swarm of bees around Bridgeport that he is allergic to, and the beekeepers have to take them all out.
There's bees and lava.
That only affect him.
Yeah, it's really, really frustrating. And if I'm a White Sox fan, if you're a fan of baseball in general, why the hell wouldn't you want to see this guy? He looks like the next coming. Like, he's a 5-tool guy that is mashing every level. And you're just like, nah, we're not going to bring him up. That's infuriating.
Yeah, it's too bad. It really is too bad. But he'll be here eventually. I mean, that's the good news.
Yeah, it's eventually. If you're going to lose, you might as well lose watching this kid be exciting.
Yeah, of course. I definitely agree.
The other thing I had to say is Ivan Nova has not been pitching fantastic, but Ivan Nova over the last couple of months has been pitching pretty darn well. Has he earned a new contract?
No.
You don't think so?
A few starts, a complete game shutout against what? The Tigers, the Marlins? No. Find someone better.
Just saying, is the White Sox do not seem to attract top tier talent.
But go somewhere else with Ivan Nova. I just, no.
Okay, I'll go with that. I remember the other thing I wanted to talk about, and I don't know how I forgot about this. I need your thoughts on these uniforms.
I hate them. They're stupid. Burn them to the ground.
Thank you. They're the worst uniforms ever. And whoever on Major League Baseball's design team was like, what about this? You single-handedly made the ugliest uniforms ever, and I lived through the late 70s and early 80s.
I would like to go up to those uniforms, stick my finger on my uvula, and upchuck on them.
I lived through the Pirates having those hats with the flat tops.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, classic. Classic.
So these are the worst uniforms, and I never want to see them again. It's, oh, hey, what team is playing? I don't know. I'm wearing my new glasses, and I'm still squinting, and I can't tell who's playing.
We're watching Spaceballs.
It looks like Spy versus Spy from Mad Magazine. What the hell was that? Why?
I don't know. I don't know. Never again. Because the ones last year were really cool.
It's the worst part about it is you followed up when the Cubs had those awesome uniforms at the Little League World Series.
Those were dope. Those were dope.
That was great. And you were like, the Twitterverse was all excited about it. And you're like, oh, they're a little too excited about that. Let's shit the bed here and see what they think about this.
Yeah, I don't. Ugh. I'd rather forget those uniforms.
Burn them with fire. All right, should we talk some Bears?
Let's.
All right, we got a victory. And it was funny. Matt Nagy said, I want to see a victory against the Indianapolis Colts. And the Bears didn't look like it was going to happen early on in that game. Offensively, they were really struggling. Chase Daniel just hasn't looked that sharp. And they came out and they pulled out the victory. And in reality, it doesn't mean anything. Who cares? You had some of their starters, but all of your backups. Again, none of your. And it's funny because they were billing this game as this is the game where the starters. I mean, literally on the commercial on the radio for this game, they talked about that the starters will be playing the most time of any preseason game. And I guess that's not really true because they played the same amount, 0. So you saw them 0 minutes. But again, I still enjoyed watching it because I like seeing, towards the fourth quarter, you sort of know those are the guys that are just going to get cut. And I sort of lose interest there. But the first half of the game, I like watching guys that are fighting for an actual roster spot or are guys that you're like, I think they can be an important cog on this team going forward. And this is just sort of their coming out party. And so that's kind of the cool thing about seeing the starters not play in these games.
Yeah, for sure. I only saw the highlights of that game. I wasn't watching live. I was at our block party with a bunch of friends, and we were joking and laughing about a bunch of things. But what I did see, as it happened on Twitter, before a certain news break happened, which I would like to talk about later, I saw that Pinheiro 58-yard field goal. And while the whole time I'm thinking in preseason, okay, these don't matter. A lot of these guys probably aren't going to be here. When Pinheiro hit that, I turned into full meatball. I'm like, let's go.
Absolutely.
First 58-yard field goal since Robbie Gould in 2011 or 2012 or something like that. I turned into full juicy Mamma Mia meatball with some nice Parmigiana and sauce.
And that is a play that actually does mean something because I think Ryan Pace is sitting there with a very short leash, but he's giving Eddie Pinheiro the opportunity to win this job. He said, you won the kicking competition, but I'm giving you the opportunity to win this job. And first test, Eddie Pinheiro nailed it.
Mm-hmm.
Nailed it. And honestly, Eddie Pinheiro has the best tools of any of those guys that competed against him to win this job. It was, can he be consistent enough? He had the best leg, the biggest professional resume, but could he be consistent enough? And the nice thing is the hope was that we would, if he didn't have to split the time with anybody else, and he wasn't in a constant competition or a fear that one bad day was going to lose his job, that he would be able to just focus on kicking and get in a rhythm and do well. And he had the whole week of practice to himself, came out, kicked fantastic. That's a big, big plus sign.
And he looks confident. You saw his reaction after he hit that field goal, and it's not like it just barely made it. He drilled it.
And I read an unnamed source that was saying that in the kicking world, that everybody acknowledges that Cody Parkey is better than anybody the Bears had in that kicking competition. And my retort to that is, you, sir, are an asshole that is clearly not a Bears fan and clearly didn't watch last season.
I mean, it's one thing to look good in practice, but you saw in the regular season in games that actually mattered, you know what you saw.
If you take And I'm not going to argue. If you take Cody Parkey's whole career body of work, yes, it's hard to say otherwise.
Sure.
But guess what? This is kickers. Kickers are a what have you done for me lately game. And there are teams trading 5th round draft picks for guys that have never kicked in an actual NFL game. And Cody Parkey is still sitting on the sideline, on his home in his couch.
Yeah, that guy that the Vikings traded for. Do you see how he's been doing?
I did not.
He's missed a number of kicks.
Oh, that's good for us.
Yeah.
So it's, if Cody Parkey was such a good kicker, why are there so many teams that were bidding for services for a guy that was a backup kicker and watching the waiver wire for another backup kicker that's going to get cut in Carolina, and nobody's calling Cody Parkey? Nobody even called him in to do a kicking competition.
No.
Nobody called him in for a tryout. If he was so damn good, why has nobody called him?
Well, explains for itself right now. I think he didn't do himself any favors with the way he handled the end of the season last year. I think that really affected it. I mean, even if he had, let's say, I don't know if he would have gotten cut, clearly, if he didn't miss that kick in the Eagles game. But let's say he got cut after that all happened, and he handled it a lot differently. Do you think he would have at least been brought in? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that question. I really don't.
Yeah, I don't either. And it all goes into it is if you get laid off of a job and you walk into the office and be like, accept your severance and say, thank you, would you write me a letter of recommendation somewhere else? You get a lot different result than if you walk into your boss's office and pee on his desk. Like, honestly, you got laid off either way, but it is all about going forward. And Cody Parkey just, if there was any hope of him having this job going forwards from somebody else, he just is like, let me finish peeing on your desk and then drop a deuce or two. Like, that's what he did. And he left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. And even for teams that don't like each other, this general manager circle is very close and tight knit, and everybody knows everybody. There's 32 guys. They all know each other. They all call each other regularly. And if Ryan Pace is like, here's the sitch with this guy, there's not going to be a lot of phones ringing for a Cody Parkey, unless the only thing I can think of is if somebody in the middle of the season has their kicker go down with a bad injury, and maybe Cody Parkey gets a call because you're going to call a guy that's a veteran to come in to kick. But is he going to get a call ahead of Dan Bailey? Is he going to get a call ahead of Matt Bryant? No, he's not. So I don't know if he gets a call. This might be the end of the road for Cody Parkey.
You know what I think could happen? I think he may end up in like the XFL or the Canadian Football League if he really wants to keep playing. I mean, financially, he's going to be fine. He's made a lot of money, but I could see him going to like the Canadian Football League.
Maybe, but he needs a car there. That's why he couldn't kick at Soldier Field. And he didn't have a car.
That's true. Okay, I'm sorry. I wanted to say this. I have this wonderful vision of Ryan Pace addressing the media after Cody Parkey was kicked, explaining that he literally urinated on his desk.
And him just shaking the stuff off from his desk, shaking the urine off of them.
We had a situation earlier where Cody Parkey came into my office and he urinated on my desk, and he was in the middle of urinating on my desk when I entered the room, and I just addressed him with Coach Nagy, and we both agreed that it was time to move on. We just, in this culture that we have established, we don't think it's right to be pulling your pants down and squeezing the lemon on your boss's desk.
That's the best Ryan Pace impersonation I've ever heard. Look at my best dad coffee mug, and there is still tinkle inside of it. You can see the yellow remnants, and I did a thorough investigation of every molecule of yellow in there, and it was all urine.
As you can see, my chair that I usually sit in to do work has urine on it, and the material that this is made out of. I think it's in best interest for us to move forward and get a new chair, just knowing that there has been urine soaked into this chair. Are you enjoying this?
I am thoroughly enjoying this. Oh my god.
Unfortunately, my office still smells like pee. I can't. I lost it. Just imagine Ryan Pace, like that straight professional look that he always has. Unfortunately, my office still smells like pee.
I was in a situation once in New Orleans where we had a disgruntled player urinate on our general manager's desk there. And so I took the opportunity to learn how to deal with desk urine from many years ago and applied it in this situation.
We decided
to have bounty because it is really the quicker picker upper.
We evaluated the budget and we decided that was the right way to spend our money. I did consult Coach Nagy and just made sure that there was no pee in his office. I am sorry to say that his office is covered in fecal matter.
But we don't know if this is a related matter. We're still investigating.
This may or may not have been Cody Parkey.
I did reach out with Mark Helfrich, and he seemed to have a urine-free area in his office. So we're still looking into the situation. We're not going to leave any stone unturned.
We're not really there yet at conclusions, but we also may believe that this was John Fox's old monkey getting into his office, and he was obviously locked in. He had nowhere to go.
Why is this so fun?
I don't know. This is so much fun. We need to do like Ryan Pace imitation segment on every show.
Oh my goodness.
I need to work on a Matt Nagy because Matt Nagy he doesn't really have a distinct voice. He's very basic.
He's got the twang or like that Western Pennsylvania, dialect that he has. Definitely came out when he was trying to sing "Take Me Out to the Ball Game."
Buy me some penis and Cracker Jack.
Yes, and the funny part is he knew full well that he can't say peanuts. Like he knew that. It was pointed out to him. He was fully aware. He knew that the whole team laughed about it, and yet he sang it in the song, and everybody was shocked except for the Bears players who were like, we were ready for this. We knew this was going to happen.
That is funny.
But back to this game. There was, I actually had my block party last night too.
Everybody did. The other blocks all around us had it. Incredible.
Yeah, it was a perfect day.
It really was.
The weather was great. So yeah, we had the block party. We had a couple of my neighbors had brought big screen TVs outside and had the game on out there, and my wife and I are the ones that put the block party on. So we are kind of doing other things. So I would stop in, catch a few minutes, pop back out, do other things, pop back into somebody else's, outdoor living room. But I recorded the game and I was up to like 1:30 watching the game. And I really wanted to see some things, because we've seen some inconsistent play in the first two games. And we still saw some inconsistent plays, but I think a few guys really stepped up, and they were guys that I was hoping would, because they were guys that I would be surprised got cut. And if they're not playing well, that would be a tough one to swallow. The first one, Dion Bush.
Mm-hmm.
Dion Bush played a great game. He had a pick six. He had a couple of really big hits, some good coverage. He just some broken up passes. He just played really well. He played like a guy that is playing on the last year of his deal and wants to get paid, and that is huge. Because I love Eddie Jackson. I love Clinton Dix. I see opportunities for Dion Bush to play, because I don't see both of those guys going full 16.
Yeah, no, I think it's important to have depth like that. The one thing I truly do worry about when it comes to Eddie Jackson is his health. And I'm not saying he's going to just suddenly be derailed and he's never going to play. I'm just, he may miss a game or two every season. So it's good to have the depth.
So it was good to see him step up and really play well. That was fantastic to see. Nick Williams, I thought, played a really good game. That was nice to see. I think he's got a real opportunity to make this team. Nick Kwiatkowski played really well, and he's a guy I've been down on the last two games.
Yeah, he looked good, very good.
He looked faster. That's been the big knock. Is Big Dave and I joked a lot is about how people call him a coach on the field, and I said coach on the field is code for he's too slow to play.
Yeah,
he knows the play, but he's too slow to play it. And that's kind of been what Nick Kwiatkowski is. And he looked a lot faster. He played a lot faster, had better angles. And that was encouraging to see, because he did have a nice game.
I can't help but wonder if maybe the coaching staff kind of nudged him a little bit, or this was him realizing, hey, if I want to make this roster, I better step up my game. So maybe that was part of it.
He's a guy that I think most everybody penciled in as a guy that would make this roster as the backup to Roquan Smith or Danny Trevathan. And there was a good possibility that he wasn't going to make it. Is you brought in some other middle linebackers. You have Joel Iwuanway. I still never going to be able to pronounce that, who's been playing better. And so the realistic opportunity, the real possibility of him, Nick Kwiatkowski, not making this team was there the way he was playing those first two games. And the way he came out in this game and played, I think he's cementing himself as a guy that will make this roster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That was very encouraging, that last game, to see for him.
Another position where I was concerned is not with our starters, because I think we're super solid there. In fact, I know we're super solid there. But it was the depth that I was worried about. It was edge rusher.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're fantastic with Aaron Lynch, Leonard Floyd, and Khalil Mack. It's after those three guys, what do we have? And I think Isaiah Irving really stepped up this game and played well. And Vaughters has been nothing but fantastic in the 3 preseason games so far. He has just announced that he wants to be on this roster, and I think he's earned his way onto it.
Yeah, with the pass rushing, it's a very good point, because when you think about it, you say, oh, we have Khalil Mack. That's not a big deal. He's going to eat. It's like, yeah, but he also needs to be on the sidelines every now and then. So depth is pretty important. Just remember, before we got Khalil Mack, we said our biggest problem was that position in terms of defense.
It was absolutely. Yeah. And because if Leonard Floyd is the guy, and this is not a knock on Leonard Floyd, he's not an elite pass rusher.
He's got to prove it still.
He's a guy that has played very well as a dropping into coverage and doing different things. but as just a pass rusher, if he's your main source of getting pressure on the quarterback, that's not good. But when you brought in Khalil Mack, then you're like, all right, we're all right here, especially when you still have the defensive lineman that can disrupt the center, the middle of the pocket. And that's really, I think, is going to be the big difference this year. Is you're going to see a fully healthy Khalil Mack with a training camp, and is with these defensive linemen who I'm really fired up about. Bilal Nichols being in better shape, Akeem Hicks, Eddie Goldman, just pushing that pocket, and you're forcing somebody to roll out and go to, like, you're not going to be able to step up. Khalil Mack is going to come, and you're going to see just absolute destruction. I don't think last year did justice to what we're going to see Khalil Mack do.
Yeah, of course. Couldn't have said it better.
Roy Robertson Harris, I thought, had a really nice game. He was a guy that was quiet the first two games, but I think he stepped up and did really well. And he's a guy that I think is going to be a key contributor to this team. So it's nice to see him come up and play well. Ryan Nall, I thought he's a guy who I always felt bad because I think he's a talented guy. I just was like, I don't see him making this roster.
Right.
Just a numbers game. But now I'm starting to look at it as he has, I think, a legit chance to make this roster. And if nothing else, he's the change of pace back from Tariq Cohen, Mike Davis, and David Montgomery. Kareth White, I thought, was going to be the guy to be that fourth running back. And I think he had a little bit of a disappointing game. I think it was good in the kick return game, but I saw some chinks in the armor as far as the running game. He's very fast. He's very, very fast. But I realized, with Tariq Cohen, when he gets hit by a guy, he doesn't always go down. He's got a good center of balance, very strong. Doesn't go down as easy as somebody his size should. Kareth White was going down a little too easy, didn't get those big, tough yards. And I think Ryan Nall is a guy that if you need a 3rd and 1, he's going to push that pile forward, and Kareth White is not. And so I sort of flip-flop my positions on it. And I think Ryan Nall is going to be the one that makes this roster, and Kareth White probably going to be.
So you think he'll be their number 4 back, basically?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I mean, your justification makes sense. It really does.
And I think you just sort of need is because they don't have a fullback and they don't really play one. But I think Ryan Nall could be the role of a fullback, but still be a running back. And Kareth White is not. He is basically the same type of guy, obviously not the same level of talent, but the same type of guy as a Tariq Cohen. And if you've got Tariq Cohen who's better, then what purpose does Kareth White have? So I'm still very high on Kareth White. I think you just need to put him on the practice squad, and there's things he needs to work on, but you can't teach speed. You can't teach explosiveness. And if you can get him stronger, work on some things, you have a diamond in the rough there.
Yeah.
But I've sort of, we've got another week before the cut downs, and I've sort of gone through the roster, and I think I know what the final roster is going to be, and I just want to go through it real quick.
I mean, most spots are pretty obvious.
Yeah, I went through the whole 53-man roster, and I pared it down, and there's some tough choices in here, but quarterback, I think it's going to be Trubisky and it's going to be Chase Daniel. I think you're only carrying 2 quarterbacks.
So you're not on the Bray train, because I think Bray's looks better than Daniel, if you want my opinion. But yeah, it's probably going to end up being Daniel.
Oh, he has. Chase Daniel is, I think they look at him as another coach that can step in and play. I think, you see, the thing is, I think Chase Daniel if he's able to read the defense better, I think he's able to diagnose what he should be doing better. And I think he knows the playbook better than any of the quarterbacks, but I think he's the least talented.
Yeah. I agree with you.
If you look at Matt Nagy knows this, like, quarterbacking inside and out, but he was not a successful quarterback. So it's those kind of things. Is sometimes a guy that has less talent is forced to, if he's going to play well, is forced to do other things like, mentally know the game inside and out. And I think that's sort of where Chase Daniel is. He's not as good of an athlete, doesn't have a big of an arm, but he knows the play. So I think it's having another quarterback in the room that's not learning. He doesn't need all of the reps that Trubisky is going to get and, will help grow. So I think that's the reason they keep him.
Right.
Wide receiver, last year they kept 6. I think they keep 7 this year.
I could see it.
I didn't know where you cut. So I went Allen Robinson, Anthony Miller, Taylor Gabriel, Cordero Patterson, Javon Wims, Riley Ridley, and I was like, those 6, they're a lock.
They're a lock. Yep,
But
absolutely.
There's another guy who I was like, I think you have him on there for special teams, and that's Marvin Hall. You brought him in as another special teams guy. I think that's you keep him on as a special teams guy. So I think they keep 7. Tight end, last year they kept 4. I think they keep 4 this time. And that's Trey Burton, Adam Shaheen, Ben Broniker, and Bradley Soule.
Yep. I'm right there with you.
They gave a lot of opportunity to some of these some key undrafted guys, and they at times looked very good, but other times they didn't look so good. And Bradley Soule hasn't looked great, but I think
he's also just making the transition.
He's made the transition, and I think his blocking ability is going to be the key that separates him.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's going to be a blocking first tight end because when you think about it, the Bears, one of their issues, quote unquote, with tight end position is you'd like to have better blocking. Trey Burton is an offensive tight end first. He's not an elite blocker like other tight ends are. He's more of a target for Trubisky. Adam Shaheen, who the heck knows if he's even going to be healthy? So I don't know. But yeah, you're going to need someone to do a good job blocking. And if Bradley Soule can give you that, you'll take that because you're going to need it.
I have them with guards and centers. I have them have 5. Kyle Long, Cody Whitehair, James Daniels. Those are your starters. And then Ted Larson, Alex Bars as the backups for both spots. And tackle, this one was the tough one. I have them with 4 tackles. Bobby Massey, Charles Leno, Rashad Coward, and I have a question mark because I think they're going to bring in somebody that's cut from another team. I was not happy with any of the backup tackles in the offseason or in the preseason. Rashad Coward's a guy that they're very high on because of his upside, so I think they keep him. But I was not really happy with any of the backup tackles. So I have a feeling they're going to be watching the waiver wire and bring in somebody else. But there's going to be an open spot there.
Yeah, that's another area that I think that has struggled, that hasn't really gotten a lot of attention. Everyone's so focused on the kicker, but there are little areas. I mean, there aren't any glaring holes on this roster. There's just a few little things like that.
Yeah, and obviously Charles Leno cures a lot of those issues just by being healthy. Bobby Massey's holding on the right side. TJ,
we'll see what he brings this year. Bobby Massey, he's had such an up and down Bears tenure, but it seems like he's gotten better with age. Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, they had to pay him some good money to come back, but
Right.
he was the best option available. It's either you went out and were forced to draft somebody early on, and Ryan Pace didn't want to be in a situation where he's drafting out of need. And if you let Bobby Massey go, you didn't have anybody else to step in.
Right.
So
Right.
you are in that position. So you pay him, and he hasn't been fantastic, but he also hasn't been like bad. So he was the best option you had available. And if it came to a situation where you did draft somebody late and they looked fantastic, you could always cut a Bobby Massey, but they didn't. They didn't bring anybody that was competing for that job. And
Right.
you have a lot of guys in that tackle spot because obviously Leno and Massey didn't play this whole preseason. You've had Cornelius Lucas, who's really struggled. TJ Clemens, who's been up and down, but he got injured in the last game. You've had Rashad Coward. You've had a lot of guys in and out of there, and none of them have looked fantastic. So I think they're going to look for the waiver wire to somebody that's cut and bring them in. And if
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. And when I was mentioning Bobby Massey getting better, I'm not saying he was great last year, but I'd say compared to how many times he struggled in like 15, 16 or whenever he came over, around those years, you saw some improvement under Matt Nagy.
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree. They also did things to mitigate him being on an island. So that's the mark of a good offense, is even if you have somewhat of a weakness. Like there's been plenty of times that the New England Patriots have had individually offensive linemen that are not that good, but they have geared their offense to lessen that weakness by, through schemes. And so I think Bobby Massey has benefited from things like that. Plus they have a better offensive line coach right now, which has helped.
Yeah, for sure. That can make a big difference.
Running, and I like Alex Bars. He's a guy that Ted Larson is a solid veteran. You had him here before. You brought him back. I think he's a very solid backup that can play any of the three interior positions. And Alex Bars is a guy who, if it wasn't for injury, would have been a pretty high draft pick. I mean, not like first or second round, but probably third, fourth round. Out of Notre Dame, like the offensive line coach knows him, and I think you're going to get good things out of him. And I would not be surprised if they tried to swing him out to tackle, as opposed to some of the other guys. But I think he's a future starter that they've brought in.
Yeah.
Running back, last year they kept 5. This year I think they have 4. I think it's Tariq Cohen, Mike Davis, David Montgomery, and Ryan Nall.
Right there with you.
Kicker, Eddie Pinero. Punter, Pat O'Donnell. Long snapper, Patrick Scales. Woo. Defense, I don't see too much of a shift here. As last year they had 4 safeties. I think they kept 4 this year. So Clinton Dix, Eddie Jackson, Deion Bush. And they shifted over Sherrick McManus from corner to safety. I think he takes that safety spot. Yeah. He played well in the preseason, and he's a special teams guy. It's hard to knock him for that. They had 5 corners last year. I think they keep 5 this year. Fuller, Prince Amukamara, Buster Screen, Duke Shelley, and Kevin Tolliver. And again, in a pinch, Sherrick McManus can play corner. So it's he's a wild card there.
One of my just favorite guys on this team has been Sherrick McManus because he's been quietly really good.
He really has. He's been a guy that I didn't understand the purpose of him, a number of years ago, but he has really grown on me. Obviously, I don't think he's a starter caliber, but I think he's a fantastic depth guy because
absolutely
he's a great special teamer. He's a hustle guy. And when he's pressed into service, like he was last year, you saw him play really well. And there's clearly times where you see that he's not as talented as your starter is, but it's not like he's getting beat because he doesn't know his responsibility. If he gets beat, it's because of talent. And that's if you have a backup, you never want them to lose a battle because they don't know what they're supposed to do and they're doing the inappropriate thing. If they lose, it's because they got outplayed by somebody that's better at the opposing position.
Mm-hmm. Touche.
Linebacker, I have them keeping 9, just like they did last year. Danny Trevathan, Roquan Smith, Leonard Floyd, Khalil Mack, Isaiah Irving, Aaron Lynch, Nick Kwiatkowski, Kevin Pierre-Louis, and James Vaughter. So I think those are the guys. And then 6 defensive linemen like they did last year. So they have Akeem Hicks, Bilal Nichols, Eddie Goldman, Roy Robertson Harris, Nick Williams, and Jonathan Bullard.
Yeah, I mean, you look at this team last year, you look at it this year, it's going to be pretty dang similar. I mean, you just go through every position, and there's very few changes.
Yeah, so I mean, realistically, it was pretty easy.
Right. That's the whole point.
Does Marvin Hall make it? What's that swing tackle look like? Who's your backup tight ends? Do they keep 4 or 5 running backs? I think it was easy for the defensive line. Linebacker, pretty easy. Cornerback, safety was pretty easy. Cornerback, that last cornerback spot maybe. So most part, it's been pretty easy to identify who the guys are. There might be a tiny surprise here or there. I think the biggest one is that swing tackle position. And like I said, I think they're really going to scour the waiver wire when they see guys cut. Because I think there's going to be better options out there than there are in-house. I think that's the one glaring weakness is that swing tackle. But other than that, it's I'm just ready for that first game against the Green Bay Packers.
Aren't we all? So bring on football, bring on hockey.
I saw that tweet. The disgruntled. Yeah, I'm right there with you. As a disgruntled Cubs fan, I'm just ready for hockey to start. I'm ready for football to start. I'm ready for, exciting times. I'm even optimistic about Bulls, but really, I think the Blackhawks are going to be much more exciting than they have been the past 2 years.
I'm actually feeling pretty good about them.
I'm feeling pretty solid. The Bears, I'm feeling just super excited about. And no, there's no containing these meatballs. Like, I am I Love Lucy at the Italian border in those episodes where she's a big pizza, it's a bit spicy meatball. I am fake Italian speaking. I've got the Romano cheese. I'm throwing it everywhere. I'm ready to go.
That's awesome. That really is. We've reported that there is a big pot of boiling meatballs outside my office. I wonder who that could be.
It's me. It's me. It's a Sean. I'm a meatball.
I'm still trying to clean up the Cody Parkey pee.
It's a weird smell having urine and meatball sauce. It's quite a combination. We put Mark Helfrich on this. He's our guy on this. He's got some experience with that. Yeah, he came from the college ranks, and you know how those college guys are pranksters. So he comes from the college ranks, and we really like the experience he gives us with pasta sauce and urine smell in the same room.
We're going to see how long it takes before we can go back to our offices again. I haven't been in there in 5 months.
Oh my God. I think we need to tap out.
Yeah.
Oh, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please make sure you hit subscribe, however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, the TuneIn app, Google Play. Please share the podcast with friends and family that you know love Chicago sports, which should be everybody. Follow us on social media at ShyFanPat1, at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. You guys are the reason we do the show. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like number New Yorkers. Smoking crack is not legal on planes. Bears 31 to -7. The Bears!
Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.